bless you, brother. We're going to fight for you.
Thank you so much.
We cannot stand Byron. And that's this community you're talking to.
He has a very dark vision for this.
I know. We know. I can tell you more. Natalie. Nice meeting you.
Natalie, nice to meet you. I know.
Hey, good to see you.
What an honor. What an honor.
Hey, before you come on, we're going to have Alfie open up because he has an incredible story.
Please.
About a possibly Jewish guy who called up trying to get you
He basically asked why I'm having an immoral anti-Semite at the store. He said he comes from a big conservative group. He's always been a fan of mine, and he wanted to know why I was having an immoral anti-Semite at the store. And I just told him, I said, I'm not sure what you're referring to, but everything that I've listened to from James, I've not seen anything that he represents himself as an anti-Semite. And I said, what is it that you're talking about? And I knew what he was going to talk about. He was going to talk about the $360 or $400 million that we're not going to buy the bonds from. And I said, and of course that's what he answered. And I said, that's not anti-Semitic. I said, my first business partner was a Jewish man. My daughter works for Dr. Simone Gold, a Jewish woman, and just because I don't want to give money from Florida to any countries, including Israel, doesn't make anyone an anti-Semite.
Right.
And I said, really, what that does is that when you start buying bonds with state money, it allows more potential for pay-to-play politicians to come in and have reason to give that money away. And I said, that's the part that I'm against. I said, can you argue that? And he really had no argument. And you know, when Governor DeSantis ran the first term, I was on board with Adam Putnam. He was Ag Secretary.
Sure.
And
good man.
And I liked him, and I went and sat down with dinner with him, and I realized that he was more. He invited me with all these much more wealthy guys than I at this dinner. They were all big landowners in Florida, and they were all talking about, like, it was all about money and everything. And then they made a comment where at this time they said that it would be better if Hillary was in instead of Trump. And I just got up. I was sitting right next to him, and I got up and I said, you know, I just realized I'm at the wrong table. And I got up and left and started. And I've been watching DeSantis a little bit, and I got out in front for DeSantis before Trump did, when he really had no chance, because the front runner doesn't always win in Florida. I think I forget the percentage, but it's actually about a 50-50 shot of the front runner at best. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, you might know the stats better than I do on that, but anyway, you got to get behind the right guy no matter what.
Well, you got behind the right guy early the last time, but maybe you'll do that again this time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you, Alfie. I appreciate it. I'll hang out in the wings here.
Yeah, either way.
I guess hang out here. Yeah.
So it's not at all.
Where are you living?
I was living in Lauderdale, but I'm moving to Sarasota.
Okay.
I was actually going to move to Arizona, but shit, if you're the governor, man, we're Florida all the way. Which it looks like you're going to be. 100%. It's so crazy.
You can throw it in there. I just thought it.
100%.
Yes. Yes.
I'm going to get the same one facing this way right after that. I love it. Now come forward so that light's not on your face. It's kind of right on the right there. It's perfect. You get James over here in the middle. You guys like pull out this. Here we go. So 1, 2, 3. Great. One more. 1, 2, 3. Let's do it.
big America First fan. When I did my first photo shoot with him, he knew I was a fan of Nick, so he charged me barely anything, and
That's
same
awesome.
today because he supports you. Yes. We'll get you all the pictures. Let's go.
Let's do it.
All right, so we're gonna open with Alfie. We're gonna share that story because I think that's so powerful.
That's awesome.
Right.
I love that idea.
And then we're gonna bring you in after. That'll take maybe 3 minutes
Good.
to open up with that, and then we're gonna bring you in.
I'm gonna go to the restroom very quickly.
Okay, sure. It's just downstairs
Perfect.
and to your left. Yes.
Yes. Perfect.
Hey, Scotty, you take the Fishbach to the bathroom? Yep. Bathroom?
Yes.
How you doing, buddy?
Hey, Scotty.
Yeah, cool.
How are you?
Good. How you doing?
Pleasure to meet you.
Likewise.
Thank you. Yes? Yes?
All right, James, we're going to start off with Alfie.
Good.
2-3 minutes, and we're going to call you up.
Good. You want me to hang out here, hang out here? What do you
You
want
can hang out in the back if you like.
Sounds good.
Whatever works best for you.
Sure.
Right.
Fishbachmerch.com, baby.
Can we do a mic check for Alfie? Good. You guys hear me?
Yes, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, welcome to see the table. Can you smell the freedom?
Guys, today we have a treat for you. We're going to be speaking to gubernatorial candidate for Florida, Fishbach, the early candidate that I've seen who is committed to putting Florida first and America first. But hold on, we want to hear directly from Alfie. We heard this incredible establishment and facilitated all of this because he shared a story with me as we're walking through the store that really highlights the era that we're in right now and the political and business forces that are against putting America and Florida first. So Alfie, can you tell us a little bit about that interaction that you had when this person was informed that you would be hosting James Fishbach here today?
Yeah, so I get a lot of texts all the time, and most of the time I do not respond to them if they're trying to be into something. This particular one that I got over today asked me why I was going to have someone that is an immoral anti-Semite at my store today. He wanted to put, and it's a gentleman that's a very wealthy gentleman. I met him over at Mar-a-Lago, and I just, it's not that I was going to answer him. And my answer was that I said, I kind of, first of all, I had a thought of the reason that he was saying that. But I said, first of all, we are a republic constitution where I'm allowed to individually do what I want. Thank God that we still live in that state and if the election went the right way, we can still do that. But furthermore, listening to James Fishbach and digging into him over the last 3 or 4 months, I've never heard a comment from James that was anti-Semitic. And I said, what is the reason that you're making this statement? And of course, the reason is that James says that he's not going to buy bonds for Israel with long money. This is not anti-Semitic. My first business partner was a Jewish man. My daughter works for Dr. Shimon Gold. I'm not an anti-Semite. But I don't believe that our state of Florida should be funding any other country's, bonds. And the reason that I don't like that is because when you allow that to happen, and you allow those politicians and their governor and others making these decisions to be more paid to play candidates, right? And that's what I despise most, as most of you do, as the politicians that are paid to play candidates, and we know what the Israel lobby has been doing. We see what happened in our country, and we're tired of the pay-to-play candidates. And after that, he really didn't have much of a response because there's not really much that you can do. You say, I'm just trying to keep corruption out of our government, and I don't believe our Florida money needs to go to Florida. I've never even bought stocks and bonds in my life. I've taken all my money and always put it back into my business, and I'd like to see the state of Florida do the same. Right? We're honored to have being here, and great turnout. A lot of youth out here. I expected that. Great to see the youth again. This is the reason that we say that we fight for the principles that we have seen the table from the very beginning. We're not doing it for ourselves. We're doing it for the youth. We're doing it for our kids as our founding fathers did for us. And that's what we go back to you. So thank you guys for coming.
Right, Casey James, let's get this thing started. For anyone who is unaware, I spoke to this guy maybe a few weeks gubernatorial campaign, and you were polling in the single digits at that phase. You were just getting started. And now today, we're seeing you track just a few percentage points behind Byron Douglas. It's absolutely incredible. He is really the first candidate that I've ever seen, not only in Florida, but around the United States, who's been campaigning 100% on an America First message. And not only that, but a Florida First message. When you get into his policies, comes really I'm gonna pull forward first. So James, your campaign has been very, I would call it Gen Z coded, right? Just a little bit. What do you attribute to a lot of the success that you've seen in the last several months?
Well, good evening, everyone. It's great to be here. Alfie, thank you so much. Thank you all for coming out. It's an honor. I think our campaign is tapping into a real frustration in the country right now. A frustration that this country is not our country anymore. American citizens used to have priority in their country, and now we're being treated like second-class citizens. We're being treated like cattle in our country. It's hard, next to impossible, for a young man to buy a home. In the 1960s, when my dad was growing up an hour east of here, half of 30-year-old men were married and owned their home. Today, it's less than 15%. Ask yourself, is this a country that we're proud of? Is this a country, or could we be doing better? Could we be doing more? That's what we're really trying to build on. And so my commitment is before Election Day, I'm going to visit every single one of our 67 counties. We've already knocked out the first 33. We're doing every county's Waffle House as well, all of our colleges and universities. We're working every single day of the week.
We have seen active suppression against your campaign, and we're going to be getting into some of the more establishment forces a little bit later, so far as it comes to politics. But you were even briefly suspended on X. What's up with that?
Look, X was supposed to be, and I think largely is, the free speech platform. We all remember Twitter 1.0 under Jack Dorsey and Yoel Roth. If you questioned the integrity of the 2020 election, you were thrown off, you were suspended. If you questioned mask mandates, you were suspended. Vaccine mandates, you were suspended. Now, why on earth would Elon Musk suspend me 2 days after the poll comes out showing us just few points behind Congressman Donalds? Could it be that Elon Musk endorsed Congressman Donalds back in November? So what I tell Elon Musk is what I tell anybody, is may the best man win. Let X be the public market. Allow us to make good arguments. And whoever has the better vision for Florida will win this election at the end of the day.
Oh, I completely agree. So speaking of that, speaking of Byron Donalds, I watched your interview with a woman. Her name is Cara Palmer.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken.
She's insufferable.
Yes, that is an accurate assessment. Now, I'm sure most of the audience here will not submit themselves to watching her content. So, for the sake of everybody here, you gave an incredible answer when she asked you a couple of different questions. The first one was where she grossly misstated the amount of funds that you have raised. And in fact, she needed to do a prologue at the beginning of her show to correct that, okay? Because she didn't want to embarrass herself. But secondly, she asked something that I think really taps into the heart of Floridians, of the everyday person who isn't wealthy, who doesn't have $1 million in the bank. She said, how do you feel compared to Byron Donalds with $30 million in his bank account? And you gave a response that was so beautiful and resonated so much with the everyday man. And since they probably haven't seen that, because again, they won't subject themselves to it, could you give the audience a reminder of what you said to that question?
Well, if you want someone who's going to take $45 million from AIPAC and corporate PACs and property developers and Elon Musk, Byron Donalds is your guy. Look, I would rather be a poor free man than a rich slave. Byron Donalds is a rich slave. He is a slave. He is controlled. And look, and they say that's racist. Sir, do you think that's racist that I call him a slave?
Not one bit.
I don't call him a slave because he's black. I call him a slave because he's a slave. And it's very simple, by the way. If you want someone to stop calling you a slave because you took a bunch of money and you're controlled by AIPAC and hedge fund billionaires, all you have to do is give back the money and you cease to be a slave. Look, we know that money in politics has gone too far, but guess what? We've beat the odds before.
Yes.
Hillary Clinton outspent Donald Trump 4-1. Kamala Harris outspent Donald Trump 3-1. I don't want to glaze Zoran, but Andrew Cuomo outspent Zoran 10-1. And so what matters is, what is the money for? The money is for getting and meeting with voters. There's this lie that's being spread right now that my campaign only has $950. That is an inaccurate, false, slanderous lie by the fake news media. I will have you know, we have 942. I went to Burger King on the way here. So we're not going to tolerate the defamation from the media. Who needs money when you have patriots? And every single one of you is a patriot. Thank you so much for coming here. It's an honor.
It gives me so much faith that the power is actually returning to the people in a country that has been monopolized by corporate interests for so long, by political donors for so long. And there's a lot of people who probably think that, running on this America First campaign is a populist thing to do. But when you look at your limitations, as far as the money that you put in, in fact, I've heard that Marian Allison is campaigning against you. Is this true?
It is true. Miriam Adelson has already announced she is, quote, raising a war chest, not against me, but against all of us.
Yep.
Against all of us. Look, it's very, very simple. I work for you, Byron Donalds works for AIPAC.
Thank you.
It's that simple. And I have to say to my friend Alfie, thank you for being a free speech patriot, for giving us this platform, for not cowering. Because my fear is the fringes of the left for years, Alfie, they told us that if we questioned DEI or affirmative action, that we were racists. And now the fringes of the right, the woke right, the establishment right, what do they say? That if we want to take the money that we sent to Israel, our money, and bring it back home and invest in our kids, our grandkids, our communities, that we are anti-Semitic. Those words, they don't mean anything anymore to us. Let me just be very clear, because I know that this is going to get... I got to say this every single time, because you got to beat a dead horse, but I want to be clear. I condemn hatred of Jews. I condemn hatred of Muslims. And I condemn the most virulent, disgraceful, systemic kind of religious hatred against Christians. Anti-Christian hate has no place in this country.
You're in good company, because you know who else? Marian Allison is trying to unseat Thomas Massey, one of the biggest patriots for this country. Yes, he's a libertarian, but the Republican Party makes it look good as a libertarian when you come and say, right? And I've seen a lot of people make posts already saying Massey, Fishbach ticket. Obviously, you're too young to run. But if you get elected for governor, or even if you don't, you have presidential ambitions in the future.
My ambition is to serve my country best I can. I grew up in Florida. My father drove the city bus in Broward County where I grew up. My grandfather was a World War II vet. He taught at Florida Atlantic University, herded cattle on the side. My great-grandfather was a World War I vet. He ran a small hotel on Fort Lauderdale Beach. I just love our state, and it's time to move in a direction that can make all of us proud. Look, I was asked last night by a woman in Broward County, what are you going to do for economic growth? And my answer was, it depends. How do you measure economic growth? In 2018, the GDP of Florida was $1 trillion. Today, the GDP of Florida is $1.9 trillion. That's a 90% increase in the gross domestic product of our state. Raise your hand if you feel 90% richer. Maybe that's because GDP is a terrible way to measure economic prosperity. There are two statistics. If you hire me to be your governor on August 18th, there are only two statistics that I care about when it comes to economic growth. Number one, what percentage of 30-year-old men are married and own their home? Number two, can you raise a family of 4 on a single income? If we get those two things right, everything else will take care of it. Think of it this way. if you can get married by the age of 30 and own a home, it means you have a great paying job. It means you have an economy that works for you. You're not a slave, but the economy actually is in service to you and your wife and your kids. And so the line go up Republicans, the Dow 50,000 Republicans, we don't tolerate that. We care about an economy that works for working people, that works for young couples. When in 1960, half of 30-year-old men were married and owned their home, and now it's less than 15%, that is not an indication of an economy that serves us well. And let me just say this. There's a lot of talk about the Epstein files. There's a lot of talk about why we should or should not care about them. It is disgraceful what the Department of Justice has done to cover for the Epstein co-conspirators. It's disgraceful. It is disgraceful. And Amy, my view is pretty simple. If you are covering up the crimes of Epstein and his accomplices, congratulations, you are one of Epstein's accomplices as well.
Look at this man speaking again, truth to power, putting the power back in the hands of the American people. And I'm telling you guys, I have witnessed firsthand the lengths that people are going to try to suppress that. In fact, I was talking to one of my favorite pollsters, okay? Do you guys remember during the Trump and Kamala election, the way they were painting her in the media as if she was miles ahead, as if Trump did not stand a chance? There were very few pollsters who were polling honestly about Trump's numbers, okay? And they ended up in the top 3 for accuracy at the end of the day. Time exposes or promotes you. But I reached out to this gentleman. I'm not going to name him, but I asked, does he have any data on the Fishbach campaign or the gubernatorial campaign out here in Florida? And you know what he said? That his wings had been clipped and he was not allowed to pull on it. James, what do you make of that?
Guys, if they don't want to take a poll of this race because they can see this crowd here at Seed to Table, guess what? The first stage of grief is denial, Alfie. They deny the movement that we are building. And guess what? The do-nothing Republicans in Tallahassee, the know-nothing Democrats, they can cope and seethe because, Amy, the only poll that matters is on August 18th, 2026. Let's end this election, show up in record numbers, and build an America First movement in the 3rd largest state in our country.
Speaking of that, James, let's talk about America First specifically, because over time, people's positions change. With new information, they're able to make better informed decisions. They have better intellectual understanding, right? And so when you started campaigning on the America First movement, there were a lot of people who were distrusting of you. And you know what you did? You went on podcasts with even some very menial creators. You met with people where they were and you explained your positions, and by the end of those podcasts, you received the Goipa blessing. From what I've seen, at least. So, but can we elaborate a little bit on why people are saying that your positions changed so much, why you can't be trusted? And let me make my position clear. I don't believe in the purity test. I don't. I know that I've changed over time. I know that I've evolved over the time for the better. And I can see that you have too. But for anyone still doubting, could you talk us a little bit about that journey? For example, a bunch of people are bringing up your debate with Destiny, for example. That is being recirculated in recent times. So let's just clarify that so we can get it over and done with.
Yeah, I'm guilty as charged. When the facts change, I change with them. And so, a couple years ago, when things looked different with our relationship with Israel than they do now, when there wasn't an anti-Semitism law on the books right now, Florida State Statute 10105, my position on Israel was different than it is to now. In Miami Beach last month, there was a woman Her name is Raquel Pacheco's. She's a National Guard member in the 90s for 9 years. She lived in Miami Beach for 15. And she put out a Facebook post criticizing the mayor of Miami Beach for criticizing the Palestinian cause. She heard a loud knock at the door. 2 armed officers were sent by the mayor's office to confront a woman for criticizing the government. That is not the free state of Florida. And not a peep from the so-called free speech Republicans in Tallahassee. Guess what? It was wrong to suppress the speech of election researchers in 2020. It was wrong to suppress the speech of the Great Barrington Declaration during COVID, and it's equally wrong to suppress the speech of those who are critical of the Israeli government. Here's my position. If you want to criticize Russia, be my guest. If you want to criticize Ukraine, be my guest. And if you want to criticize Israel, be my guest. That's your First Amendment right. That is your right in the United States of America.
How is it that you can go downstairs to any of these restrooms as a male, not for women, and you can pee on Kamala Harris's face, and that is not considered anti-patriotic? But if you so much as utter a word about Israel, you're considered an anti-Semite. And you know what? That term has been so overused, just like they did with the racism tropes, just like they did with everything else, that guess what? At this point, it's almost a compliment. Double down on it, in fact. You know, James, you have done a remarkable job of standing up for your principles. But one remark, despite that, has been that you are a white nationalist, okay? So, and we're going to get into your policies, okay? This isn't just going to be all about your campaign, I promise. But where do you stand on that perspective, so far as people calling you a white nationalist, a Christian nationalist? Do you agree or disagree with that label?
Well, let's break words down, right? Because words can mean different things to different people. I am Christian. I believe that Christ is king.
Amen.
So that's the first part of the term. That's the first word. The second word is nationalist. Do I believe that America is a nation? Do I believe that it is not a free trade area or an economic zone, that you can't just show up here, file out some paperwork, and suddenly become an American and take our birthright, take our jobs, take our homes from you, your kids, and your grandkids? Of course, I'm a nationalist. So yes, I'm a Christian. I'm a nationalist. If that makes me a Christian nationalist, I guess I'm guilty as charged.
I love it. I love it. So, throughout your campaign, and let me just preface this by saying, in recent times, Nick Fuentes has actually given you his endorsement. Did you know that?
I heard about that.
Yeah, pretty incredible. So, with that, throughout your campaign, from the beginning, you have been encouraged by so many people to disavow him, to disavow the Groypers, to disavow anybody wearing this hat. I see 3 of them in the front row right now. What do you have to say about that? And what do you have to say about the value that Nick Fuentes has provided in waking this country up?
What I'll say is this. The same way that Alfie did not cower to the person who called him and discouraged this event, this conversation that we are all a part of from happening, I will never, ever disavow patriotic Americans, ever. And I consider the America First movement to be patriotic, informed, insightful every step of the way.
I love it. So you have recently, you've had discussions with people like Sneaker, Tucker. I don't know if you've had an interview with Nick. You haven't had one yet, correct?
No.
Not yet. I'm sure it's coming. Would you...
Well, I was in the biggest interview of my career, which was last night at Fresh and Fit until 2 a.m.
That was amazing, by the way. You did a great job.
Well, and can I give you some background? So, you know, Fresh and Fit is this podcast. It's Myron Gaines. It's Fresh. And they have women around the table. And I put out this policy last month that said, if you hire me as Florida governor, I'm going to eliminate all forms of anti-Christian moral degeneracy. That means slapping a 50% tax on OnlyFans. We all remember a country. We all remember a country where our young women aspired to be doctors, nurses, business owners. That's the country we have to get back to, stay-at-home moms. And now young women are objectified by OnlyFans, tens of thousands of them right here in Florida. They're told, no, you don't need to have a career. No, you can't be a stay-at-home mom. Just sell nude videos on the internet. To the owners of OnlyFans, I say this: get the hell out of our state. I hope you go bankrupt.
I could not agree more. I myself have received criticism from appearing on the Fresh and Fit podcast. First off, shout out to Fresh and Fit. They actually kickstarted my career 4 years ago because I appeared on a debate and I encouraged an OnlyFans girl that she could do better for herself, because I could see that she was a beautiful woman, she was an intelligent woman, and I encouraged her that she could do better. That debate went viral. That's the reason, honestly, it's kind of crazy, but that's the reason why I'm sitting here with you today. They kickstarted my career, so shout out to Fresh and Fit. But something that a lot of people may not know, and by the way, I am fully supportive of your syntax, but a lot of people are actually unaware that there is something called an O1 visa that used to be reserved for extraordinary talent. In fact, it's something that Nixon cooked up in the 90s when he was trying to deport John Lennon, and his wife, Yoko Ono, okay? So it was reserved for extraordinary talent, but since then, the floodgates have opened, and now, if you are an OnlyFans creator with millions of subscribers, you apparently qualify for that. And right now, there's about 20,000 per year that are being brought into the country with only OnlyFans and Instagram credentials to flash. Do you have any opinions on the O1 visa and how we would approach that on a state level from Florida?
So, Amy, what you're saying is there's a mass influx of OnlyFans migrants coming into our country, right?
Correct.
I have an idea. Build a wall, make Sophie Rain pay for it.
Yeah.
But I think the heart of this question is really important. We voted against mass migration in 2024. We didn't care if it was illegal or if it was blessed by the Koch brothers and the Democrats in Washington, D.C. Mass migration, whether illegal or legal, is wrong. When you have H-1Bs coming from Mumbai or Shanghai stealing your jobs, your kids' jobs, that is wrong. When you have O1 visas, OnlyFans models coming into our country and letting their families come into our country and gain citizenship, that is wrong. Let us not forget that the migrants in Springfield, the well-behaved migrants in Springfield, were here legally on TPS. Let's not forget the Afghan refugees that came here after 2021, one of whom shot 2 National Guardsmen the night before Thanksgiving, was here legally. And I don't need to remind anyone in the room that the 9/11 hijackers were here legally as well. As far as I'm concerned, mass migration is a sin, whether it is legal or illegal, and it must end. It must end.
This is the perfect segue into more of our serious policy discussions, because I know you have some incredible contributions that you want to implement. Let's start with something that I feel like would be particularly pertinent to the people standing here. They're at Seed to Table, which is built off of an organic farm, the Oaks Farm that Alfie cultivated, right? You want to bring the citrus industry back to Florida. Let's have a conversation about that. What happened with the citrus industry, and how do you plan on bringing it back, and what impact is that going to have for Floridians?
So we know that Florida is inseparable from the orange. It is our state identity. The peak citrus season was in 2005, 244 million boxes of citrus. The most recent season had only 15 million boxes of citrus. Well, what happened? There was wait for it, a virus that came from China called greening that destroyed the citrus industry all over Florida. I was in Frostproof, a small town in southern Polk County last month, meeting with citrus growers. And it wasn't just the pain that citrus farmers have felt. Their own incomes, their own wealth, their own jobs gone. But the entire community that depended on the incomes of citrus farmers and growers gone as well. The old movie theater replaced by a Dollar General. The old family-owned ice cream shop replaced by a Burger King. When we have and we give up on Florida agriculture, we don't just give up on our farmers and our ranchers, we give up on the entire local industry that they would support. Because you have to go to the local industry to support the businesses, the cafes, the restaurants, all of that. And so my view is very simple. Show me the incentive and I'll show you the outcome. Is there an incentive right now for any scientist in the world to cure greening? No.
No.
Citrus can be worth, and Alfie knows this, can be worth $50 billion a year in Florida. So why don't we offer a $1 billion cash prize to any scientist in the world who can solve citrus greening and revive our proud citrus heritage? It's great for jobs. It's great for our small communities. It's no wonder that small communities like Sebring, Avon Park, large parts of Polk County, they feel left behind because the agriculture that powered local jobs, local industry, hotels, restaurants, cafes, those jobs and the income and the spending are gone. So guess what? Let's do a little trickle-down economics where we start by rebuilding, reviving citrus and Florida ag, and then all of the local industry will come back as a result.
I love that. I love that. Do you guys love that? Let's go. This is a governor. Again, he is Florida first. And we haven't even got into the rest of the policies. You guys are going to love this, okay? We have a beautiful lady who's standing out the front here. Her name is Desiree. And she told me that there's something that she's particularly concerned about. Something that Governor DeSantis actually signed into law, and something that labeled many of us as conspiracy theorists when we were calling out the chemtrails in the sky, and they called us crazy. They called us insane. And then Governor DeSantis, bless his soul, signed an order that said that we would ban the thing that they said was not happening, and they said was actually a conspiracy theory. Didn't they? Isn't that crazy? When they actually create laws that outcast the thing that they said was a made-up conspiracy theory. Anyways, the issue is that it has not ceased. It has not stopped. In fact, this gentleman was just saying it's been happening all day today. James. He says the sun's white. James.
Poisoning us.
What do you have to say about chemtrails and the executive order that was previously passed? How do you plan to actually enforce it, since it appears under DeSantis it is not being enforced?
Correct. So look, any law, you change some law in some state statute in Tallahassee, but if you don't enforce that law, nothing changes.
Right.
Here's the law that I would enforce. It's our founding document. You cannot deprive people of life or liberty. We have the 14th Amendment that gives equal protection. Chemtrails are real. They must stop. And they don't stop by signing some law. They stop by enforcing that law. Here's my commitment. If there is a pilot taking off at any airport in Florida to spray our sky and poison and contaminate and infiltrate our air, I will arrest them. I will have the Florida Highway Patrol and the state troopers arrest them. Arrest them. Because what's the point? What's the point of changing a law if you don't enforce it?
James, it's also our military. It's not just a private sector, it's the military.
This gentleman says it's the military doing it, not just the private sector.
The Constitution applies to every single person in the United States of America. Listen, I want to be very clear here. I don't work for Washington, D.C. I don't work for the Department of War. The war of the chemtrails, the war of poisoning our skies and our air. When I say I will arrest anyone who is poisoning our air, there is no exception to that. And if we need to go to the United States Supreme Court for them to litigate, here's what I think is going to happen. I think we're going to win. I don't know if it's going to be a 5-4 or a 6-3. It will depend on how she is feeling that day.
James, it's going to be the fight of your life
willing to do it. I believe it.
I welcome it.
I believe it.
Governor, I promise you I will fight tooth and nail.
Listen, I'll tell you right now, this is not going to be easy. But look at the sky. What was that final most essential command in George Orwell's 1984? The final most essential command was to deny the evidence of your eyes and ears. The gaslighting is over. I'm not here to propose laws that go unenforced. In fact, I'm willing to just simply rely on the Constitution as the law of the land. If we have to arrest people, I don't care who they work for, you are not going to poison our skies if I am the governor.
Questions at the end, but thank you so. No, hold on, one second. We're gonna.
I do a lot of posts on Chemtrails in Naples, activity.
We're gonna answer your questions at the end, sir. Okay.
One more thing, and then I'll be done. If you stick to what you're saying and you really force it, I guarantee you will pick up at least 2 million votes.
I agree. We will
You
make
said you will pick up 2 million votes if you actually enforce this. I mean, who here agrees with that? Do you guys agree with that statement? Let's go. Okay.
Again, I think this is a very interesting thing, because if you ask my opponent about chemtrails, he would say, what's that?
Yeah.
He would gaslight you in the same way the Department of the War has gaslight you. So I'm acknowledging the problem. I'm going to solve the problem. Am I going to ruffle some feathers? Am I going to break some eggs? Am I going to bring on fury and fire? Of course. But if they're literally building a gas chamber in our skies, what choice do we have but to fight back?
100%. And this is why, guys, if this is a gentleman who is willing to fight against one of the most prominent PACs in America, AIPAC, then I certainly believe that he can push back against geoengineering. Absolutely. Now, you've already talked about the Israeli bombs. We started it off with that segment with Alfie about how he was almost coerced to not have you here today. But given that he is an honest man with real values, here we are, right? Let's talk a little bit about that money that goes to the Israeli government from Florida alone, and how you plan to not only cut that out, because I agree, we should not be subservient on any government, but you plan on redirecting those funds to Floridians, right?
I do. And look, guys, this is first principles. Our money should not be lent to any foreign government. Any. Look, I went to IKEA for lunch today. I got the meatballs, but I'm not lending money to Sweden. Okay? No foreign country. So how could it possibly be anti-Semitic to say that? Look, we're not lending the money. We're bringing the money back. These are called government bonds, sovereign bonds. I happen to have been a sovereign bond trader for 5 years. And what I can tell you is, I'm not letting anybody slow walk me. If I have to go to the Bloomberg terminal myself and sell the $385 million of bonds, I will. But I'll take it one step further. Shortly after, I will launch a $385 million statewide down payment assistance program. If you are young, if you are a Floridian, if you are married, there is a $10,000 check with your name on it to buy your first home. Why are we so concerned about home ownership? Because guess what? If you don't have a home, you can't get married. If you can't get married, you can't have kids. If you can't have kids, what is the point? Here is my view. My view is that when it comes to you buying a single-family home, you should only compete with other Floridians to buy that home. Not BlackRock, not Blackstone, not a Chinese or Ukrainian oligarch. I work for you, and so I'm going to ban Blackstone, BlackRock, or foreign nationals from buying up our homes so we can actually have a shot at the American dream again. And some will say, the doomsaying establishment Republicans in Tallahassee and in the zip codes that surround the swamp, they will say, well, That's an assault on freedom. Yes, because Ben Franklin's definition of freedom was a $300 billion private equity firm stealing homes that American citizens could buy. Look, I don't believe in freedom for every LLC on the planet. I believe in freedom for American citizens only. Only.
And hey, you guys can hear the Australian accent, even as a resident working towards citizenship. I have nothing to complain about when it comes to that. I am as patriotic as they come because I have seen, first and foremost, my country is slipping into a socialist hell. I don't even call it my country anymore. Listen, I'm marrying an American next month. This beautiful man right here. My children will be American. This is where I'm going to grow old. This is where I'm going to be buried. I am America first, 100%. Okay? And it's because of individuals like James Fishbach that I have faith in the Western world, because the freedom of the world rises and falls on America, but not when it comes to these donors, not when it comes to establishment media. We need people like James Fishbach who are going to set an example for the rest of the states, the rest of the country, the rest of the West, okay? And that's why I'm here interviewing today, James. Honestly, I respect it so much. I appreciate you so much. Another policy that I really respect and appreciate is you're talking about maternity leave and how you're going to help women when it comes to that. Now, this is usually a leftist talking point, right? However, we have seen case examples of that with Charlie Kirk, for example. He gave more maternity leave to his employees than most liberal companies throughout the entire country, because he understands the power of the nuclear family, okay? And how that is the bedrock of everything. Like James says, if you can't do that, then what's the point? So, James, what is your plan when it comes to paid maternity leave for women to actually spend that crucial time with their kids and not outsource it to a nanny or somebody else?
A nanny from Somalia who doesn't speak English, who will radicalize your young daughter.
Right.
So this is part of my pro-life position. Let me just zoom out for a moment. I am not going to mince words. Life begins at conception. At conception.
Amen.
Abortion is murder. Murder is wrong. Murder is wrong at any stage of life. And we must do whatever it takes to stop the murder, the genocide, and yes, the Holocaust of the preborn in America. And how do we do that? Well, look, my opponent wants to play footsie with the moderates and then with the pro-life Christian groups. This is not going to win me votes in the moderates, but I'm going to tell you the truth because I would rather do that and lose than tell a single lie and win. If a full abortion ban came to my desk, I would sign it. It would be the honor of a lifetime. It is not enough. It is not enough to ban abortion in Florida, surgical or chemical. It is not enough to shut down, dare I even say burn down, the 53 abortion clinics that still stand. I want to erect a Christian crisis pregnancy center where those abortion clinics once stood. It's the right thing to do for our moms. Because guess what, guys? We can get rid of abortion, and we will, but we cannot get rid of an unplanned, unexpected pregnancy. We have to support our moms with prenatal and postpartum care, with baby food, with diapers, with community resources. We need to come together as Christians and support our moms, our sisters, and our neighbors at this time of anxiety. We will help them. And one way to help them is to say and stop saying, "Oh, you had a baby on Saturday morning. We'll see you at work on Monday morning." the only person who should be raising a child is the mom and the dad, not the nanny, not the Haitian nanny. And so how do you do that? You have to institute paid maternity leave for every mom. It's the right thing to do. It's the pro-life thing to do. It is the Christian thing to do. We will do it together, Lord willing. Thank you. And by the way, you know, my favorite economist of all time, my favorite economist is Thomas Sowell. And Thomas Sowell has a great line in Basic Economics. There are no solutions in politics. There are only trade-offs. And so what trade-off do we care about more? A company losing a little bit of money on its profit margins in the third quarter, or a mom losing out on the ability to raise her beautiful son? That is your choice. There is no perfect solution. You are hiring me to make a difficult decision, and I will choose a mom raising her child over a company making the maximum amount of profits on its labor margins every single time.
And I genuinely believe that a mother who is subject to that work environment, who is giving her that option, who shows that they actually care about her, when she returns, her output will be double, triple, quadruple that of the average corporation that is using and abusing her and wants her back the next day after giving birth.
That's right. And so we've made, Amy, the moral argument for doing this. Let's make the strictly business argument. You have a woman, and we know that women's true happiness comes from getting married, having kids, and raising those kids.
Correct.
If you deny women the ability to get married, have kids, and raise those kids on your own, they will never be happy. And the lack of happiness is going to show up in their contributions, in all of that in the workplace. So there's a moral argument, a righteous argument, but there's also a business argument. This is a win-win. I'm sick of the short-termism. They're only looking a couple quarters ahead. They're only looking at the next earnings report on Wall Street. Will it beat the consensus estimate on the Bloomberg terminal? How about you look 5 or 10 years ahead and recognize that your employees will be happier, yes, but more productive, absolutely, if you let them raise their children and support them in the process, and we will do that together.
And this is going to raise more patriotic children as well when they can be grown up in those environments.
Right.
James, one of the things that you have said is you want to make a high school graduation requirement of a 5-minute speech about their favorite president. Is this correct?
This is correct. So we had President's Day last week, which is awesome. And look, I love our high schools here in Florida. I think Governor DeSantis, the First Lady, have done a great job with our public schools and our school choice. I want to build on that. First thing, if you take your kid out of a Collier County or Lee County public school, and the county was going to spend $16,000 to educate your child, and you take on that responsibility as a courageous homeschool parent, you should get the full $16,000. You should get every penny. But if you decide to stay in our public schools, there is going to be discipline and order in our public schools. A few hours ago, we learned that a high school student in Palm Beach County was sadly struck by a car while skipping class for an ICE protest.
What, today?
Today. Please keep this young woman in her prayers. But for the safety of our children, drop the iron hammer on the ICE protests in our public schools. The First Amendment does not give a 16-year-old the right to be a delinquent, incorrigible student. Get the hell back to class or you're getting expelled. I don't don't care what you're protesting. I don't care what you're protesting. But rather interestingly, there were no public high school protests for Laken Riley or Jocelyn Nagari or Rachel Marin. Their lives matter too. The ICE Patriots, their lives matter too. And so enough with the double standards. Enough. But the third thing is, if you're coming to our public schools, you are not dressing like Snoop Dogg. You are not dressing like Janet Jackson in that Super Bowl halftime show 20 years ago. Hire me as governor. I will institute a statewide mandatory dress code for every public school student. The alternative, you have two choices. Show up to school looking like a rapper, or show up to school in khakis, a belt, a polo, and a jacket if you're a girl, a pantsuit, or a knee-length dress. Guess what? It's called the Dressed for Success program. We got to do little things with a big impact. Students will respect themselves again in our public schools. And the third thing is I'm doing a new graduation requirement. You are not graduating from a Florida high school, I don't care if it's in Collier or Lee, unless you can answer these 4 questions. Number 1, we're going to grab you out of class unexpectedly your senior year. We're going to bring you outside and we're going to ask you, which way's the Pacific Ocean? If you don't know that, we're holding you back a grade. Number 2, you are going to write out verbatim in cursive the First Amendment and the Second Amendment to the Constitution. Why? Why? Because if you don't know your rights, the Democrats will steal them from you. You have to know your rights. Number 3, and this is going to be a very tough one. We're going to pull you out of class randomly as well. And we're going to tell you that some liberal bought a soy latte for $9.67. They paid $50 cash. You have 30 seconds to make their change. And the last one is, before you graduate, you have to deliver a 5-minute speech in front of your class with no notes on who is the best U.S. president and why. Those are the new 4-part graduation tests. And look, Amy and I, we all have our favorites. I'm a Nixon guy.
James, let me ask you, because you know what? I've had a lot of, they know that I'm interviewing you today, and they want to know, can you do what you're about to compel your students to do? Would it be appropriate if I set a timer and you give a 5-minute speech on why you think Nixon was the best president of these United States? Would you be willing to do that?
I would be willing to do that.
All right.
You want to do it at the end? Or now?
We can do it now.
Okay.
Set a timer for 5 minutes. All right. Begin.
Want me to stand up and do it?
Yeah, let's go. Let's go. Bring your mic. Bring your mic with you there. Nixon, let's go.
So my name is James Fishbach. I'm a senior at Boyd H. Anderson High School, class of 2013 in Broward County. And I'm going to articulate, I'm going to do 3 if I can. I'm going to do 3 presidents. I'm going to articulate why 3 presidents are among the favorite presidents in U.S. history without any notes, without any preparation, the same graduation requirement that I would ask of our high school students. The first president that I want to talk about, no, it is not Barack Hussein Obama. It is not Big Mike either. The first president I want to talk about is Richard Nixon. As president, Richard Nixon understood that telling the truth no matter how unpalpable, how unpalatable, how controversial it might have been, was still important. Richard Nixon knew that certain words might divide a private conversation, but if they were told, could actually heal a nation. Richard Nixon knew that you had to keep your friends close and your enemies closer. He understood the threats that China posed, but he also understood that you had to keep open dialogue with your enemies, like Mao Zedong. He never was oblivious to the threat that the communists threatened us with, that they posed in the mid-20th century. But he was willing to tackle that head on. Now, what plagued the Nixon administration was the Watergate scandal. But as history has looked back at that scandal, has understood the facts and the underlying patterns, it is crystal clear that Richard Nixon did nothing wrong, and that impeachment was a scam. Just as the impeachment of Donald Trump was a scam the first time and the second time. Presidents should not just be judged by what they do in office, but should be judged by how they leave office. President Nixon was a trusted confidant of Democrats and Republicans after leaving office, of George H.W. Bush, of Bill Clinton just weeks before Nixon died, speaking directly to Bill Clinton, making himself available as a Nixon Republican to a Clinton Democrat. An open line of communication is what we should all strive for as Americans. Look, the days of canceling our fellow Americans for thinking differently, for voting differently, are over. The days of smearing someone for being a fascist and canceling them are over. The days of smearing people for being a Marxist and canceling them are being over. And the days of calling someone a groper and canceling them are over. We are all Americans. We are all Americans. So we judge President Richard Nixon not just by his leadership style, but by the work that he did afterwards, being a private confidant to presidents like H.W. Bush, like Bill Clinton, Republicans and Democrats. Now, I want to use my remaining time to talk about a man who was the 45th and 47th President of the United States.
1 minute.
I have 1 minute to go. Let me say this. If Kamala Harris had won in 2024, there would be 10 million more illegals in this country. Donald Trump's greatest accomplishment was accomplished 1 hour after he took the oath of office on January 20th, 2025, which was to shut down the border. I understand there are frustrations, and I share them too, about the influence that Israel has in this administration. But perhaps Trump's greatest accomplishment was shutting that border on day one to stop the ongoing invasion. There is work to do. We have to increase the ICE presence in Minneapolis. We cannot back down. If you are in this country illegally, it is time to go home. Do the courageous thing. Stay where God put you. Make your country great so we can make our country great. Thank you very much.
He did it.
And Amy.
I mean, there's 3 seconds to go, but you did it, basically. Great job.
All right, there's
That
3
was
seconds to
incredible.
go. I want to use these 3 seconds. Barack Hussein Obama is a traitor to the United States of America. There is no statute of limitation on treason in the United States of America. And until we see arrests of people like Obama and Anthony Fauci and the Epstein accomplices, there will never be justice in the United States of America. I'm sorry. I respect President Trump. But what on earth is Kash Patel doing? I would not trust Kash Patel. I would not trust Kash Patel to investigate what happened to my DoorDash last night. Within days of January 6th FBI agents mounted the largest federal investigation in history. They took patriots out of their homes, out of their workplaces, for peacefully protesting what we all know was a stolen election in 2020. And I'm sorry, we refuse to accept that the Department of Justice could arrest people for protesting peacefully in the Capitol, but cannot arrest the men who raped and trafficked 10-year-old girls.
James, there are times when I need to protect my mind and I take a little social media break. And you know what, today was kind of one of those days, and I found out through a good friend of mine, Sam Anthony, who runs a platform called Your News, that Prince Andrew was in fact arrested today. Why is it that people overseas are being arrested for a blackmail operation that occurred in the United States, but even the United States people who were involved are not being arrested and not even being publicly shamed for what they did?
Say what you want about the UK and Keir Starmer. They arrested the brother of the King of England in connection with the Epstein files. That means that we can arrest anyone, whether there's a D or an R next to their name, for trafficking, assaulting, and raping those girls. Amy, there's a lot of talk. There's a lot of talk of the little St. James, the island in the U.S. Virgin Islands, Epstein's island. There was also another island where Epstein abused and trafficked women with his co-conspirators. It is called the island of Palm Beach. That is in the state of Florida. If I am the next governor of Florida, I will appoint a statewide sex crimes prosecutor to reopen every single Epstein investigation. And I'll tell you this, there's no statute of limitation on capital sexual battery in Florida. It's the law already. If you did to those young girls what Epstein and his accomplices did, it's capital sexual battery. And I'm sorry, we're not doing the prison thing.
Oh.
We're not doing the prison thing. Look, we all know Scripture. The Lord says, "Vengeance is mine. And to my Lord I say, I'm going to send him there a lot quicker. We're going to do public executions for anyone convicted of capital sexual battery." Listen, the last public execution in Florida was in 1924. It was never ruled unconstitutional. It was never unlawful. In many respects, it is more humane than the lethal injection, and I'm not talking about the COVID vaccine. What we need to talk about is the fact that we have to set an example. Yes, we need to bring these men to justice, but we have to send a clear message to anyone in the country that if you do to women, to girls, what Epstein and his co-conspirators did, 3 words, Clint Eastwood movie, hang them high. And Amy, if the United States Supreme Court dares to stop an execution, we will say the same words as our famous president did. They've made their order. Now they can enforce it. They're not stopping us.
James, I'm kind of lost for words because this is an issue that resonates so deeply to me, and I'm sure so many of the American people. Because not only is it something that affects the children, if we can't enforce laws or set standards that protect the weakest of our society, what does that say about us as a people, as a government? But we saw from the beginning of this, there are no files. Just after Pam Bondi said that they were actually on her desk and there were thousands of hours of tapes that she needed to peruse, to Donald Trump, despite me believing in his message originally, to him saying that there are no files, it's a Democratic hoax. And maybe the Democrats put him in as a hoax, who knows? But that doesn't mean that the files themselves, the victims themselves, it doesn't mean that it was a hoax. And everyone around the country were just hoping that somebody would care enough to do something about it. And so far as I've seen, you're the only person who's espousing rhetoric that is actually commensurate with the crime that was actually committed in these United States. So I want to thank you for that.
Thank you, Amy. And remember, we need actual substance. Rhetoric alone is going to look at what rhetoric has gotten us. Rhetoric has gotten us to back down from mass deportations. Do we want mass deportations? Yeah! Look, you either have a country or you don't. You either have a border or you don't. I wish these people well, but I wish them well as far away from us as possible. Get out of our country. You steal, you invade, you cheat, you dispossess.
We have about 15 more minutes, and I want to give James the opportunity to address questions from you all. So there's just two more things I want to talk about. Palantir. This issue is deeply personal to me because I've seen the country that I was born in descend into a socialist, dystopian hellhole, largely led by these very technocratic policies that have been implemented. Now, you have said that you want to prevent Palantir from receiving government contracts after they said they were moving to Miami. In fact, you want to block them being here altogether. So can you talk a little bit about the threat that you see with that and the measures that you plan to implement to actually stop it?
48 hours ago, Palantir announced that they're moving their headquarters to Florida. Is Palantir welcome in Florida? No. A surveillance state, whether run by the government or run by Peter Thiel, violates the Fourth Amendment of the United States Constitution. You cannot collect unlimited data without a warrant. I do not care who you are. I don't care how noble your cause is. We heard this lie after the Patriot Act. After 9/11, we're trying to keep you safe. And then for years, they illegally spied on American citizens. As governor, I will ban Palantir from any government contract in our state. In other news, I'm not getting a donation from Palantir. But guess what? It doesn't matter. If we speak the truth and we win, awesome. If we speak the truth and Byron Donalds wins, who cares? The thing is, we have to speak the truth. And I will tell you this. We're coming up on 250 years of a country. Our founding fathers did not fight and die for us to be taken over by Palantir, to be lobbied by AIPAC, to have Blackstone outbid on our homes, to have Indian H-1Bs take our jobs, and to have illegal immigrants flood our country. This is not an election between the who. I've got, a president once eloquently said, we do a little trolling, and I do a little trolling with Congressman Donalds. I have some, would you like to hear some of my names for him?
I love them. Go ahead, please.
So the first one was H1 Byron, because he supports the H1B scam. The second one is AIPAC Shakur. And then, Tucker asked me in our interview, he said, do you call him that because he took money from AIPAC? And I said, yeah, that and other reasons. And the last one, it's become a favorite.
Byron!
Ladies and gentlemen, help us defeat Byron Donalds! And Amy, look, I heard a rumor that is actually the name he was born with. And he changed it. He changed it, like J.D. Vance, to get into politics. So, listen, Byron, let's clear this up. Release your birth certificate.
I love it. Oh my goodness. Listen, I wanted to open with the nicknames. I wanted to keep this kind of reporter, investigative-esque, so I'm glad you brought it up. Okay, on to the final thing, and then I want to have you address the questions from the audience. Trump is rededicating this nation to Christianity in May. Have you heard of this?
I have.
Do you plan to be in attendance? What does that mean to you? And how do you plan to bring Christian values back to Florida?
Doesn't matter what anybody says. This country was not founded on anything other than Christianity. It doesn't matter what anyone says. That is what we know to be true. The way you lead is you stop the demonization of Christians in our public institutions, in our government, number one. Number two, you bring back student prayer to our public schools.
Amen.
And then you do something that we're all called to do by our Lord in Luke chapter 6, verse 46. Why do you call me Lord, Lord, and not do as I say? We are called to follow his commandments, his precepts, his dictates, to the letter. What do we learn in Revelation? They will spit out the lukewarm Christians. We have to uphold the law that is given to us by Scripture. The people say they are principled conservatives. Ask yourself, the next time some GOP politician says they're a principled conservative, ask them, where did you get your principles from? The Heritage Foundation? Some self-important Washington, D.C. think tank? The GOP brochure? My principles come from two places. Number one, the Bible, Old and New Testament. As Jeb Bush would say, please clap. And number two, the United States Constitution. We recommit to those three things. Why is it, if before you take a math test in Collier County schools, if you and your classmates said, Miss Simmons, before we take our end of the semester exam, is it okay if we said an Our Father? What would that public school teacher say? Your First Amendment right to worship does not end at the schoolhouse gates. We will bring back prayer to our public schools. That's how we rededicate ourselves as a Christian nation.
So with that, if you guys will join me, I would love to say a prayer for hopefully the future governor of our state, Governor Fishbach. I'm going to join him here. And if you guys want to join me in prayer, bow your heads, whoever you want to receive this. Heavenly Father, we pray for a hedge of protection over James Fishbach. He is encountering mass opposition that is coming against him from every single level, but we know that his faith in you, his faith in the power of the people will supersede all of that. God willing, it's all up to your will, but we see this man, he is doing everything he can for the average man, for the average woman and child, to bring back family values, to reinstill all of the values that the Bible is predicated on, to bring this to our state, to put America first, Florida first, and set that as an example for our entire nation. So God, we pray for a hedge of protection over him, for all of the America First movement as forces that wield millions and billions of dollars try to come against him and try to come against us. This is a prayer that I say every night for myself and the America First movement. We wish it over James Fishbach right now, not only that he will be protected and provided for, that we will see his victory as governor of Florida, if it's in your will. In Jesus' name, amen. And now we'd like to invite you guys to ask any questions for the remaining of the segment. I'm going to step off and James can answer for you guys. Stay up or
stay up here. We'll take
got a little
probably
we'll take
I'm sorry. 3 or 4 questions. Yes, ma'am.
Can you hear me? Okay. Question I have.
I can hear you. I can hear you. I'll restate it.
Yeah.
Quick questions. Number one. Would you hold this? Yes. So I can go. You work there.
Perfect.
Okay. Perfect. Question. It's a 3-point question. One, would you be interested in election integrity? For example, getting rid of foreign election machines, maybe an executive order or something of sort?
Yes. I want to give you the second one and the third one too, and I'll answer all of them at once.
Okay. Would you be interested in not having developers appointed to the Florida Wildlife Commission? And 3, as a governor appoints people to the Public Service Commission that decides whether to raise rates for the Floridians for the solar farms that the power companies are putting everywhere.
Yes, thank you. So she has 3 really good questions. The first of which is my view on election integrity. It should be very easy to vote and very hard to cheat. The way you do that is banning all election machines and instituting paper ballots. Paper ballots only. Election day, not election week. And then we're going to make election day a state holiday. No school, public workers are going to be off. It has to be easy to vote. Your question about the FWC is especially hitting today because I spent the morning with Cowboy Python out in the Everglades and I caught a 9-footer. And yes, I think the FWC does not represent Florida wildlife. I want to keep Florida wild and free. Article 4, Section 7 of the Florida Constitution would afford me as governor the right to remove any member of any commission, including the FWC, for derelict of duty. They're all derelict in their duty. They all have to go. And who do I want to point to the FWC? Not land developers, not property developers, not lobbyists, hunters, conservationists, fishermen, anglers. That is who I will appoint to the FWC. And the third question is about the PSC, which dictates the electricity rates in Florida. Once again, they have not vetoed a single one of the electricity price increases. We did not ask for a rubber stamp commission. We asked for a commission that would do the work and push back when necessary. They have to go, and we have to put people who are independent, including small business owners, working families, on that commission so we can get fair electricity rates in Florida.
She was satisfied. Okay, I'm gonna pull out the mic from the next question. You pick. Oh, he's very eager. Come on.
single year for lack of health coverage in this country. Healthcare is not a right for our citizens. So what is your political opinion on that? I was going to ask you about child care.
Have him step off the stage and blocking the closing.
And then step off the stage just because you're blocking the show. Thank you.
So they say that health care isn't a right. Unless you're an illegal immigrant, it's absolutely a right. You get all the health care that you want. We pay for it. So my view is this. If everybody in Florida got free health care tomorrow, would the state be healthier tomorrow? No. You have to address the root causes of why people are sick. The crap we eat. The crap that's fed to us. I think there's a name for it. I think there's a name for the crap that's fed to us. And so, two things. The fiscally responsible thing to do is to provide basic health coverage for citizens in Florida. Why? Why is that fiscally responsible? Because if we don't provide basic health coverage and people get sick, where will they go? The emergency room, where it's going to cost us, we pay for it 10 times more. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. I did study abroad in Brazil, and I got a really bad case of strep throat. And I was worried that I wouldn't be able to get care. I went to a free health clinic where a doctor saw me within an hour and gave me an antibiotic prescription for free. So yes, there should be basic health care. No, you're not going to get breast augmentation for free. No, you're not going to get teeth whitening for free. No, you are not going to be able to look max for free. But what we can say is it is actually in the state's best interest, the taxpayers' best interest, for people who are sick, citizens, to not go to emergency rooms and go to a basic healthcare facility. That's how I would deliver on that. But we also have to address the underlying causes, which are malnutrition, not eating too little, but eating too much, the bad, worthless calories. I want to solve that as well. Thank you.
Shout out to Alfie and Earth Farms and all of the incredible employees here who are serving the people every day to provide them proper nutrition and take care of them.
Is Alfie still there? Alfie, are you there?
I'm sure he's around somewhere.
Alfie, can I ask you a quick question? All right, can we just kind of part the Red Sea there? So I have a proposal, Alfie. Michelle Obama promised us to have better school lunches.
Yeah.
Here's my question to you, good sir. I believe the words of President Reagan that the government being here to help is the problem. If I become governor, here's my plan to fix school lunches. I don't think the government can fix school lunches. I think we need to privatize our cafeterias to let great businesses right here in Collier County feed our students. Alfie Oaks, you run a great, healthy, nutritious business here in Collier County. Would you be open to working in our public schools, to getting a contract to serve healthy, nutritious, affordable meals to our students?
Yeah, I think the only way to get healthy food is through. I was spending time with Bobby Kennedy before the election, and the main part is education, right? Educating people first so that they know what not to eat, right? And a lot of the younger generation started paying attention to that now. That's part of the plan. The first step is you get the line. I drive out to Milwaukee and when I see the line at McDonald's a mile long, and it really makes me feel bad for those people who are not educated. So educating to me is first. Of course, we'd love to have the contract, but we want other businesses fighting for that contract as well. We're going to use real free enterprise and if the government's going to mandate anything, it's going to mandate that we're not going to have all these preservatives and dyes and all this garbage that's in the food that's making everyone sick, and then let other companies bid on giving that healthy food. The food that they bid on right now, it's a bid system right now, but all of that is garbage. So I would never
Thank you.
Come on.
I can hear you. I can hear you.
It's good to get it on the mic though for the at-home audience. I don't know if you can. Here you go. Stand here. Yeah.
So I'm going to college soon, and I was just wondering, I know you spoke about it before, how are you going to make scholarships and getting into college easier for in-state students? I feel like I got pushed out of university, rejected by FSU, and I feel like I met that merit, and I'm competing with out-of-state students. I think it's really ridiculous. So how are we going to make scholarships more easy and, yeah.
Thank you. So, crazy idea. Florida taxpayers funded Florida colleges for Florida students. Florida taxpayers funded Florida colleges for Florida students. So why do you have a young man who gets rejected from FSU, who has the test scores, who has the grades, and get replaced by somebody who's not from here, whether they're from out of state or from another country? Let me talk about the out of country one for a moment. As we sit here right now, Washington, D.C. is negotiating a trade deal with communist China that could bring 600,000 Chinese foreign students to our universities. Listen. It's very simple. I don't control the immigration visas for foreign students, but as governor, I do control the tuition rates of our public universities. As governor, I will raise the tuition on all foreign students to $1 million a year. I'm sorry, a student from Bonita Springs, from Naples, from Immokalee, LaBelle, Moorhaven, Clewiston should not be replaced by a communist from China. When they can't pay the $1 million, they're out and you are back in. We have to protect our universities for Florida students because guess what? You're from here. You go to that school. When you graduate, you'll stay here. You'll build a business here. You'll raise a family here. We as a state have a vested interest in seeing you succeed. The Chinese kid will come here, refuse to speak English, refuse to stand for our flag, perhaps even spy on us, and the second they get the degree, go back to China. That's a really bad deal for us, and we will fix that, okay?
All right. We're going to do one more question. Come on up. You know what? I'm going to have you face the crowd, though, okay? So the audience can see you back home. So stand where I'm standing. And here you go. Speak into the mic here.
Hi, my name is Joshua Krakow. I'm currently working with the Florida Alliance Movement. We're working on getting a bill in the Florida legislature, House Bill 421, to get the report card for family court judges, so that way we can actually see the data on how we can write policies to just uniform the policies, so that way each county and judge can understand how the system should operate, rather than one judge has one decision, one judge has another. We need to unify that, and I'm wondering what your opinion is on a major family court reform, so that way we don't have family courts taking in excess of a year and a half, 3 years, separation of families, the brutalization, alienation, the abuse of children. I think we need to fix that. What do you think? And how can we fix the